Hello, Mortal Fury listeners.
Hi everybody, I'm Dean.
Chris,
Glad to be with you again.
hope you had a good week. We wanted to jump into last week. Obviously, we left you in the transition book of Acts and how we saw that as a transition between the Peter's gospel or Israelite gospel and Paul's gospel, the gospel to the nations. And so obviously right after that we have the book of Romans. And we wanted to touch on that today a little bit.
Yeah, just read some things there from what Paul's saying. And like I said, I think it's fascinating to look back, to think back, to read in Acts or other places, and then to think back to that time period, what was really going on.
Right.
Yeah, if anything, Chris and I want to just point you in a direction maybe of thinking or perspectives like, oh, there might be something more to this. And that's kind of what our whole show's about, just talking about these wonderful things, what we're learning, trying to bring that to our family, our friends. And you look into it for yourself.
Yeah.
Look into these words, look into what Paul's saying, do a word study on particular words.
Yeah. I mean, at the heart of this, Dean and I are wanting to share with family and friends, people we care about.
Mm-hmm.
We are wanting to share that the gospel of Paul is where we should be. And it's what we focus on and what we believe in and what we herald.
Right.
Is Paul's message. Today we wanted to share with you guys from Romans chapter 3, 19 to 25. I'm going to read that from the Concordant Literal New Testament. Now we are aware that whatever the law is saying, it is speaking to those under the law, that every mouth may be barred, and that the entire world may become subject to the just verdict of God. Because by works of law no flesh at all shall be justified in his sight, for through law is the recognition of sin. Yet now, apart from law, a righteousness of God is manifest, being attested by the law and the prophets, yet a righteousness of God through Jesus Christ's faith for all and on all who are believing. For there is no distinction, for all sinned and are wanting of the glory of God, being justified gratuitously in his grace through the deliverance which is in Christ Jesus.
There's just so much there.
It's packed. And in 3:21, all of a sudden we get this declaration, yet now, apart from law, a righteousness of God is manifest.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Right.
That one sentence is enormous. And he says it was attested by the law itself and the prophets. We can go back in Isaiah and Daniel and see where they prophesied about the coming of Christ.
Right.
And what that would mean in Isaiah, by his stripes we are healed. It's an incredible insight to what Paul is trying to lay down and tell people, and this is all a different perspective from what the norm was, the Israelite gospel.
Well, and that's what we talked about. I can appreciate to some degree what must have been going on when you're under this system, under this God-given law. You could see some of this conflict.
Oh, yeah.
That could have been going on at that time, and Paul happened to explain this new evangel that this is for everybody and what the cross really did. What's fascinating about that is where, again, we talked about this a little bit last week, where in some of these thinkings or discussions or conflicts or struggles that Paul had, where are they struggling with the topic of hell or the topic of the Trinity? or free will.
Free will, yeah.
Where are they? The big doctrines. The doctrines of, well, if you just take one, the doctrine of hell that's found in the Christian religion, you take that away, Christianity falls apart completely.
Yeah, they
You
have
can't-
to have
it falls
that.
apart.
It's foundational to what they believe.
And we can't find, I do a word study now. I mean, I'm not that smart. I can do a word study, and it's just not there. The doctrine of eternal torment is not in Scripture anywhere. And obviously, Paul's not fighting about that. They're not talking about that.
No, that is not at all what Paul is
No.
talking about here. Where does Paul say that we have a free will that trumps
God's will.
God's will?
Yeah, where does he say that if you don't exercise that and trust the right way, that you're going to go into some eternal torture chamber? You can't find that in Paul's letters.
No, it's not. It doesn't exist.
Then you have to
there.
mix back to, oh, well, Jesus said this. But then you look up, Jesus never spoke in English. He never said the word hell. He said
No.
Gehenna, in other words.
Yeah.
And they have meanings.
And they have meanings.
You
and
can look them up.
Yeah, and the Jewish people he was talking
They
to,
know
he was using those words because they could understand what he
Right.
was saying.
about coming into the kingdom.
It would be like me saying, if you are from Henderson,
Mhm.
a town close to us, and I was saying to get to Evansville, you got to go 41, they would know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they knew what Jesus was talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not fair today to use that. It's not a fair use of those words. So,
No.
But anyway, back to this tension between the law and then Paul's evangel. That's for all, and it's all through the faith of Christ, the faith of Jesus Christ, is how all this comes about. So that's his new evangel, and that's what he's beginning to teach.
And it
And
never
it's for today.
it
still.
never escapes me that the person Jesus chose
Mhm.
to display this was himself a Pharisee.
Mhm.
So that means this man was so well aware of the law. I mean, people had to look at him like he had two heads. I mean, and then sell out, and he did. He sold out completely
Oh, yeah.
to this message.
And the whole focus is on God the Father and what he did through his son Christ. It's a beautiful message
Oh.
about what was done for everyone. So that's, if anything, we'd want to encourage you, if you're trapped in that where your focus seems to be about, yourself, trying to be better, or trying to find peace, or trying to find God, or why this, why that. You could look into Paul's words and start focusing on what has already been done by God through his son Christ.
Yeah.
And that's where peace will come from.
Absolutely.
Knowing that.
Absolutely. If you focus on those 13 letters that Paul wrote, they're for you. Keep
Appreciate-
sharing.
Yeah, all the ones out there that are sharing, we love you all. We love
Absolutely.
it. Get encouragement from that. And all the ones that are doubting what we say or maybe not agreeing with it, just keep pushing forward and looking into these things.
Asking
for yourself.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are asking the questions of the why questions, or getting to the point of, why would a God create people knowing that most of them is going to go suffer forever in eternity, some torture chamber? So if you're asking those kinds of questions, look into Paul's words and you'll find that's just all made up. It's
Yeah.
all, that's not even true. So you don't have any concern about any of that.
I saw I think it was one of Clyde's email goodies where it said something alluded to God is not interested in games of chance.
No.
He is not rolling the dice with his creation.
No, he's not.
The idea that he would just throw this out there and, hey, some people might get it and some people won't, that's not our God.
Right. No, he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's got your steps ordered. He's got a perfect plan for you, a created being. He knows what he's doing. Some have an antenna now for Paul's evangel.
Yep.
Not everybody. We encourage you to believe it. And now is the favorable time. Like you mentioned
Exactly.
last week, it's a favorable time now to believe this.
I think that a lot of times you hear me say this, rest in it. And I mean that. I mean, take a big sigh of relief.
Mm-hmm.
The work is done. There's a reason why the last thing Jesus said on the cross was, it is finished.
Mhm.
The work is done.
Okay.
Until
Thanks.
next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.